Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Plus3 Futures and Commodities show. We are recording on Friday evening, July 21st. It is one more week left in July, one more trading week left in July. Can you believe that, Barrie?
Well, I'm starting to get used to July.
Just as it's ready to end.
Exactly.
My name is Ben Maldonado, and the person you just heard is Barrie Hederachi, and we do this show on a weekly basis. This week, Barrie's going to be covering the normal big five he does, which is ES, bonds, gold, crude oil, copper, the dollar, and the euro. And on the commodity side, I'll be doing the grains, wheat, corn, soybeans. We're going to do sugar, cotton, coffee, silver, crude, and nat gas. So we got a busy show. Let's dive right into it with the once again boring Bitcoin. The sideways is happening. We're rolling over slightly, but I mean, look at the size of the bars. They're getting tiny, just like they were over here.
Yep.
Before we had this eruption.
It's
same thing. The levels, by the way, all the levels that we talk about and including some of the markets that we don't even cover on today's show will be on a Google Doc spreadsheet that we update every week. We'll post the link to that when we post the link to the show.
Right.
But for Bitcoin, the key level that it looks like we're drifting down towards is this, 28,000, call it 28,870. So 28,870 right in here.
Yeah.
That's key. After that, the real key level is this trend line, man. If this trend line goes, it's sayonara. The only other thing that I added to this chart last week was we did 144 calendar days low to high. And if we take this swing low here, it takes us to August 1. Okay. So do we go low to high, could be a low to low. We'll have to see. But the good news is we know our marker, which is this full square here. Get below that, it's looking more bearish. As long as we're above it, the action, odds favor the action's going to happen to the upside. Not a lot to say about a sideways market, but anything you'd like to add, Barrie?
Well, I think long as we're above 27,000, I think it's okay. It's in a decent position. If it can hold above 29.3, maybe 29.3 or 29.4, then it's in a strong position. So that's the key. And I think it's right along at where your line is, a little below that. So we'll see. Not much to do here.
So. Yeah, let's jump in because there is a lot to talk about in the markets after what we saw last week and then the follow-up price action this week. So let's jump in. What a close, right on the 90.
Right there.
Man, it always does that. It's so funny.
Always
I have
dramatic.
a couple markets to show the same thing, man, right on the weekly close on the line.
Right. It's, well.
Keep you guessing for 2 days.
Yep. Kept us guessing all week.
Yeah, so, no kidding.
All right, so let's
let's
last
pick up
week,
the story.
Yeah, let's pick up the story. Last week, the thing to watch this week was this 90 by 90 square. So there's 90 degrees up in price and 90
in time,
90 bars in time. And we marked this up a couple of weeks ago and we're waiting for, and price was down here. We were waiting for price to come up here and saying that would be a good square. The thing is, ideally, what should have happened is we'll go right into the box and turn around, reverse, sell off a little bit, maybe counter trend and sell off a little bit. That'll be the correction, right? And after 90 days, we can get at least a 45-day correction, maybe 30 days. So that would be like typical. And of course, everything else outside of that around there would be other things that can happen. So in this case, we drew this trend line a while back, so we'll have to readjust that. Trend line will be something like this now. Basically, this, the whole point is we had a bunch of cycles expire right in here. We had the 90 by 90, and the whole point of the 90 by 90 is, that's sort of a termination point for markets that rally into these corners. And we did that, and it didn't quite reverse immediately, but we did get a reversal. And And the funny thing, I think the joke is that we held right above the 90,
Right.
and which would be right around, say, 45.53 is what I have here.
Mm-hmm.
And let's say 45.50 even, let's say 45.50 just for ease of remembering.
Right.
And so for now, this week we went up, really couldn't run up higher, and last 4 days basically just hung around the same place. Basically, it was a Tuesday bar. We were mostly inside the Tuesday bar, right?
Yep.
And today was an inside bar on a down day, so it's a little not the most positive sign you could have. So I would take next week, 45.50. We talked about this on our 30-minute charts that we look at intraday. And let me pull that up really quick. So here's the chart that I post on Twitter, and you can see 45.50 is right there, and that would be 180 degrees up from this low on the 26th.
Mm-hmm.
So we had this 45.95 was the 50% line, that red dashed line. Then we had this
That was a
zone.
good one too. Look at that.
It was pretty good.
Yeah.
And we had this little zone built up, that would be like the resistance zone if we pump, if we kept going up there. So what happened was, basically the 50% of the square held it, the dashed line. And then we went up to test it, couldn't really quite get up there, came down, so consolidated, right? Just not much to write home about. But the point is, as long as we're above 45.50, which is really the key line, which is 180 degrees up from that low, this is the low we have to watch, and you can see how it corresponds to the same level
To the daily.
for the daily, but which is starting from a different point.
Mm-hmm.
So, and they lock up, they synchronize like that often. So we should watch those. So 45.50, I want to show you on a lower time frame. So we'll be watching this to see what happened Monday, Tuesday, maybe Sunday night, to see if we can hold it and move higher or not. And this Zoom sort of version helps visualize what we're talking about. Daily, it's a bit difficult to imagine all the intraday sort of action that happens. So going back to the daily, I would say 45.50 is the level to watch next week. There's no question about it. If we can hold above it, we might consolidate it a little bit more above this 90, and perhaps take a shot at 47.38. It's the next real resistance. And I really can't see the market doing that on this leg. It really looks like, because we already had a 45-day run in between, like a blow off run. So it's possible that we might not get that. Where did we get that from? Maybe from it's a 30-day. It was a 30-day, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, the point is 45.50 is the level to watch next week. If we can stay above it, it's firm, and we could at least spike up a couple of days maybe, and continue to consolidate. That's a story above 45.50. If we slip below 45.50, and if you guys can sort of duplicate this trend line, we take that out, then I think we can confirm that this high, terminated that entire leg, and we have some kind of a correction coming up, possibly 30 days, maybe 45 days. It comes in different flavors. And if that happens, the next, we have two levels of support. We have 44.75, and then we have this 43.70 and 43.25 are the kind of levels we're watching. Well, that's what I have to say. Do you have anything to add to that?
The only thing I did this week, I posted, it was either this week or last week, I posted a daily, which if you go from the March high, the all-time high in March, to the October low, it's 202 trading days.
Mm-hmm.
And if we take out 202 trading days from that low, it puts us 725 next week.
Okay. Because we do have counts from October low, and also obviously March. So, and even the December low, it's 144. So we do have,
it's all in there.
Yeah, it's all in there. So just because it's in there, that's why we have to really watch the price action here. So I think watching that 45.50 is the magic number for next week. And if we can hold above, great.
Yep. Good number.
We'll have another cycle to go out, maybe another 45 days of running, right?
Right. It's
possible. At least 22 days, 20 days. That's almost a month. If not, then we can have some weakness. It's hard to say how fast the weakness will settle in. So So just watch it closely. That's what we have there. And looking at the weekly charts. We left this from last week. Ben, remember you were talking about that reminded me of this higher low.
Right.
We did do 36 weeks up, and that's kind of a big deal. And close wasn't exactly strong, but it was up.
It was not a strong week.
Not a strong week, but it was up. So we'll watch that. Not much other than that, because it's kind of a termination point. So we have to really watch it closely, wait for evidence. I think 45.50 would be the easiest way to move forward with this. That way we don't have to remember 50 different things, and it's not very convoluted. It's very clean.
That's a good clean number.
And if you guys want to follow through during the week, check our Twitter links. They're in the description. And if you like our work, please hit the like and subscribe and share the stuff. Help the channel grow. We always appreciate that. Moving on to bonds. Last week we drew this little box up, and we thought about that might be the new consolidation area, and bonds pretty much stayed within that. And we had
look at that trend line you drew, man. Nice.
I was gonna say we drew that trend line in perfectly.
Tapped
contained
it.
Yep, tapped it, contained the up leg. I think next week it's fairly clear. We take out Thursday's low. We take out 126, and the intraday prices can't really move up. I think we could maybe go back and test these lows again. I just can't believe this is going to somehow magically put a low in, and bonds are just going to rally from here. So that's not going to happen.
Right.
So we'll continue to watch that, especially since we broke out of this little Gartley pattern, right? Which I'll remove now. Get back into reality here. That's all I have for bonds. Let's jump to the weekly. Weekly, pretty much the same thing, but bigger. Weekly, we drew out this 128, I think is what I drew in last week. 128.07, fine. That is the resistance. So, long as we're below that basis weekly, it's in a weaker position rather than a stronger one.
Right.
And really this quarter of a square, so we can take a look at where that is. That's around 123. If we take out 123, then I think we can expect it to go up and finally test the 144.
Your 144 is going to get hit. It's just a matter of when.
Yep. And it's looking like we're getting close. So, but we have to finish this, get everybody all tired from the sideways. So we have time. If it's not trending, we have time to watch.
Man, if that doesn't summarize almost every single market.
Yeah.
It's been choppy sideways for a year and frustrating everybody.
Yeah, I was telling somebody today, it's like the week of holding it together.
Right.
And bonds held it together.
Yep.
Moving on to crude, doing okay. It's holding its own.
You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of cotton. It's sneaky bullish.
Well, it's
creeping up and not making much noise, so people aren't that excited.
Right. And if you guys haven't seen the old episodes, you can see, we called out this low, called out that low, and we saw these not reaching down into 64.75, and we saw the strength in there, and eventually we got out of that range. That's what this box is. We got out of that triangle, right? Broke out. And our marker was basically 73.50. We wanted price to hold above that. So when we say hold above that, it's kind of what happened this week, right? We broke out. There was a 2-day counter trend, back on up, 1-day counter trend, held above, higher lows. You can see higher low, higher low, higher low. And we had a very strong close. That's what we And so I would say crude's in pretty good shape. And
watch out.
We have to continue. If we can continue to hold 73.50, these lows here, I think then 83 is really the next stop. Take out 83. We're gonna, 91, 97 is the upside. And I think we have to watch carefully. Technicals are hardly wrong, especially when it sets up like the patterns, the bottoming and the corrections finishing up. We came down 120 degrees, perfectly held.
That's nice.
And I think once we get above this 50% at 78 and some change. That's going to be the key marker.
Yep.
And then we're off to the races. So you can see then the challenge would be that 60 degrees down from the high. That's the resistance. So you can kind of see we can almost draw a box around that. It's $6 range up here.
Sure.
So it looks like, what we do is we kind of take it frame by frame. We can see it. Okay, it's happening now. We're going higher. 73 broke through. Great. Pullbacks are holding. So everything's step by step, and it's moving systematically, right? It's sort of moving in an organized way. So now, I'm telling you guys, for next week, you will mark this out and watch it. If we can hold 76 next week, I mean, obviously 73.50 is like the bigger number, but if we can hold 76 next week, we could definitely move very quickly into 83. So that will be sort of something to watch. But the crude is bullish now that we got above 73. That's the big news here.
Agreed.
Okay. And you can see we did the 120 down, we held, everything's cool. So no problems. The wait is going to be worth it.
For sure.
So looking at the weekly, pretty much, we can see the same price action. We had the low come in, we had higher lows come in. You can see all the white bars. We got above the 50% square, which is the dashed line. 74. You can see we went up. You can see this week. Low of the
tested
week
it.
Yeah, we tapped it, went back up higher. Let's see. And so the 79, 80 is the old resistance basis weekly. If you can clear that, I think we're going to be in pretty good shape. So
yeah, it looks good. Crude looks good.
It looks good. Next, we'll take a look at gold. Pretty much happened what we were thinking about, above 1940, we thought, yeah, we can go up and test the 90, but, we have this overhead within this block that we drew out, and you can see prices
got rejected.
We tried to really push, 3 days in a row, try to get through 90, just quite couldn't do it. That's 1980 is that level. Couldn't quite do it. So, let it finish up. As long as it's above 1940, we can consider this to be sort of a messy consolidation, but with the bullish tilt. If we take out 1940, then it gets a little weak and muddy and soft. So, and not exactly a quick selling bear market. It just could be just sloppy market conditions.
Yeah,
that's just what the pattern looks like. And until we get above this 1980, then we're back in good shape. So for now, nothing much to do. Here's the weekly. 1919 was our level basis weekly. We held that for almost a month. 2000 is the upside, and we're in between. So it's possible they go up and tap that. We'll see. Otherwise, we'll probably back down to 1919, this area. We took out this channel, so it's not as strong as it could be. So clearly it's going to be some kind of consolidation. So fourth wave is action. Is what I'm thinking.
Agreed. Consolidation time.
And moving on to copper, consolidation time.
Speaking of consolidation time.
Yeah. We just keep moving.
Yep.
Well, the thing with copper is holding it. This is chop because we're holding exactly at the 50% of the square coming off this low in last July. So not much. Long as it's holding above this trend line, it's in good shape. And I think maybe next week, if we can tap this, or we can get above, this week we couldn't even settle above the 50%, right? So if we can somehow tap this and get above and hold above a couple, 3 days, and the momentum shifts, we're in good shape. Otherwise, it's going to probably wrap around this 50% for a while. You can see how attracted price is to that 50.
Yeah.
We spent a lot of time going back and forth above it, across it, and now we're back wrapping even tighter. So, and when that happens, usually it unwinds in large legs. So it's worth waiting for that. Looking at the weekly copper, there we go. Triangle. We had that triangle. We broke down, checked the lower fork, and went up to sort of kiss that lower trend line. Classic stuff. But you see what happened was it kissed it And normally what would happen is it would just sell
Breaks
off, right?
down,
If it was
yeah.
weak. Yeah, it will break down very quickly, but we're not doing that.
No.
That's what I'm saying. So it's kind of, holding pattern is not that. It's just, well, I guess it's finding value.
Yeah, there's a bid under the market for sure.
So I would say the key is, if we can take out these highs that we had a couple of weeks ago over the last month, like 397 or so, and push through here, we can expect, the faster markets. Up until then, it's probably, just winding around. So not much to do for now, at least if you're trading it. So dollar, well, we had this big breakdown, came down to it actually took out 101 area is really our key that we key off of, which is up here. We broke through that, came down to 2/3 of the square of 72, this green line, held it there above 99, which was the next big support level. So the fact that it didn't get to 99 and held here is kind of bullish, but we're not really out of the woods yet. We want to see prices hold about 101, which is this 50% line. And you can see we've danced around that for a while, most of the year. So we'll see. I mean, it looks like, we thought this being some kind of a washout, some kind of a false
move, yeah.
False start to the downside and then rally. Well,
it's a good start.
Well, yeah, it didn't continue. So
put the ABCD in from March high.
From March high, okay.
Yeah, right
Did
there.
Did that get the low?
Yep. That's what makes me think there's pretty good odds that we may have seen it. We may have gotten that low.
Yeah, there you go. Perfect. So the reason, Ben's mentioning ABCDs are because ABCDs is because they tend to terminate, counter trends and even larger moves. And here's a good example. I didn't take this off because we did call the high up there.
Yep.
And you can see how, there it is, right?
Yep.
It took a month to get it all done, but we saw that this is probably not the place to buy.
Right.
After all that. So yeah, you guys, if you want to really want like extra, sort of a little bit extra evidence, right? Whatever you're doing, look for these ABCDs to terminate. And with these squares that we're using, it's kind of easy because we know where the resistance is, we know where the support is. So on top of that, if we can get a ABCD to sort of point the way, it's just like extra.
More evidence. Yep.
So here, so it looks good, looks like a false move, but we're not really going to be convinced till we get above 101.
Agreed. That 101 is the key.
So we'll leave it at that. So weekly was told a much better story, right? Visually.
Oh, look at that. Yeah.
So we got under 90 momentarily.
And it closed above.
And we recovered and we closed well above the 90. Well, 100.5, right?
Right.
But we want to have it settle above 101. We'll see how it goes. So far, it looks good. Looks like our call was correct. So
that's right. That was a good call.
Here. And that is a good, pattern wise, that's a great ABCD, that's just where it happened and how it happened. It's perfect. And having that there's no guarantees, right? Nothing's 100%, but it's pretty good evidence.
It's strong evidence. Yep.
And it's nice to have a couple of those little tools in your box to help when things get a little blurry. When you want a little bit of evidence, right? A little bit more.
Sure.
Well, we got the euro left. Let's take a look at that. So last week, I don't know if you guys remember, or a week before maybe, I can't remember, but last week, I think a week before, we dropped this ABCD and the Gartley pattern, and we said, well, we got a box up here. That would be a good, it would be a decent termination point. And well, what else can you say? It looks like we hit it, perfectly. We got the little spike, right? And then reversal. We had 3 days down. Wow. Good chance. We'll see. Again, I'd like to see it get back below 109 or so. That's just me. Because we do have a little bit of support here. We although we call the corners, we don't necessarily always get in on corners. We try to get the leg that comes after it.
Right.
So that was a 1, there'll be a 2 and a 3 coming. So that's the one you want to really participate.
Grab.
Yeah, because it's the least amount of risk, right? So
agreed.
And it works out over time. So we'll see what happens, but looks like we hit the target, and if we can pull back down into 110 or so, we can see if it holds. If we slip through, then we know, that was the last sort of a gasp, and then we can expect the dollar to start moving and euro to get back into where it's supposed to be going.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at the weekly, well, this is, we hit this. It's not an ABCD. Well, it's kind of an ABCD. What this is, talked about it last week. It's really this leg equaling this current leg in time and price, because you can see where the horizontal line here connects to the dashed line coming,
Mm-hmm.
and where the vertical connects to the horizontal is exactly tries to match the price and time here.
Mm-hmm.
On this leg. It's just designed that way, so when it's easy to eyeball it, then so we can see that it was exactly in time, and that's a really, it doesn't happen all the time, but it's a very good sign of an ending of a move, because these both legs balanced out.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see. That's another sign. We had the Gartley on the other one. On the daily, we have this here. We had some evidence on the dollar, so they all kind of point to
It's stacking up.
It's stacking up to say that, that high we had this week could be the high for a while.
Yep.
And you can see why we're talking about 110, because it's the key level, the blue line. It's the 50% of the square coming from the high in 2008.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you can see we have a lot of price action around it in the past. And it's sort of a, it's a decent dividing line, because we've got really nice runs to it and away from it. And we'll see what happens here. But we want to really watch this to see if we can tip it. If we're going to tip below it or hold above. That's what I have to say.
Excellent.
Mm-hmm.
Good coverage.
Thanks.
Because there was a lot going on.
We have a lot going on. And you're going to cover natural gas today?
Yes. Yep.
Yes, yeah. Okay.
I'll cover gas.
Mm-hmm. Just to say, we came down 120 on these charts, and it's just wrapping around 120, right? Look at that. And look what happened last couple of weeks. We're holding
sitting on top
above it, right?
Yep.
So this is positive, long as we can hold above. Yeah, long as we can hold above that gas is probably put in the low. So that would, let's call it 249.
Mm-hmm.
So that's that. Hang Seng, not much going on there. That's sideways. Yep. That's it for me. Let me put it back to you.
Excellent.
Cover all the commodities. Well, Ben, what do you have to say today?
I say there's another cliffhanger. Remember we saw in your review, and you're going to see multiple ones when we go through the charts here. But this is the NQs. It was kind of leading on the way up.
I mean, it's a lot more dramatic than the S&P turnaround, right? So
yeah,
so perhaps it's still leading the way. We'll see.
Well, and this is a really key spot, as you can see, because not only is it full square, is it a full square? It's right just above previous highs.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So structurally, we have that support there. We've got the full square support. And of course, we close the week dead smack on it. So again, looking at the spreadsheet, 15,570 is the number. We closed it, 15,555, right there.
Right there.
So this week we watch if we can stay on top or we crisscross, maybe we chop around, but if we get under and then get stuck,
watch out.
That's the trade you look for.
Mm-hmm.
So you can see momentum slowing right here. Momentum is increasing here as the lines get steeper.
Right.
And here we lost the line and then we just kept kissing it from under, from below.
Right. Right.
So there's your big number. That's the thing to watch early next week.
Mm-hmm.
If we could stay on top of it, great news for the bulls. If we lose it, you got to look out. Yellow lights are flashing.
Right.
Anything else you got to add on this one?
No, I think we're perfectly, we're in the right place and we know what level to watch.
That's exactly right.
And so, we know the levels. Yeah, that's it. And we know the pattern.
On the commodity side, we're going to cover a lot. The key thing is some of the coverage a significant number of charts in the coverage. We're going to just show them because we've highlighted them as, we made a corner and made a thrust up, and now we're starting to pull back. So let's go in and take a look, and you'll see what I'm talking about. We'll start with the grains. Here's wheat. So wheat, had a very interesting week, right? This is on the Russia grain deal falling apart news. We shot up, and then we pulled back sharply today. But you can see we found resistance at the right spot, which is that full square. Now we had the low, we had a high, we had a higher low. Now we want to see on this pullback that's happening, is it a one-day pullback? Do we reverse right up and get above the square? That would be super bullish. Or do we chop around down here? The main thing is we want to try and hold this half square on any pullbacks. The other thing I wanted to show you here, and I'm going to show you a lot of weeklies this week because there's really good information here. Someone could say, oh, look, you made a lower high and then you pulled back sharply. That's bearish. Or it's triangulish, right? Where you're making lower highs and higher lows, and you're going to go into this type of pattern. But look at the weekly. The weekly is telling us a story. Remember, big reversal, right? We were down 3 weeks, and then we had a big reversal this week. So on the weekly, as long as we hold above this half square, which is around 674, the weekly looks to be in really good shape. So wheat continues to be bullish. There was a correction started today. We want to watch the price action. We want to see, where it ends up in terms of, do we get a higher low again, which would only add to the bullish sentiment. This is your first thrust up, and now if we're sort of triangulating in the second thrust, we want to catch that third.
Right.
That's what we're looking for here. Anything you have to add on wheat?
Well, just to say, our point of reference is the June low. So we're doing okay.
Yes.
It's not like, what's it supposed to do? Go straight up. So.
A lot of people expect that, but
yeah. So I have, around 662, 660, let's say, is my main level to watch. As long as we're above that, I think the lows are in good shape. So
right in here.
Yeah.
Which is near the half square.
Yep.
So wheat looks good. Stay with it. You got to tolerate the pullbacks, but you got to pay attention to the pullbacks because they give you clues as to what's going on in the overall trend. All right, let's go to the next one. Corn. So corn had a nice week, and I want to show you again some interesting things on the weekly. On the daily, you see we found that low, had the first thrust up. Look at where it stalled, at exactly where it's supposed to, the half square. Previous low now previous support now becomes resistance, and so here's your first pullback off this thrust, right? So we've got the first down bar. We want to see how many bars is it and where does it end up? Do we get a higher low and reversal? And that's a really good sign if we have that playing. Let's jump to the weekly, because why do I want to show you this? Remember the thing I showed you on wheat?
Yeah.
Last week in corn, I said we had an outside reversal. That was one of the signs that let us know, even with this structure, like here's all we had last week right here, right? There's 5 bars. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So here was the price action we had last week, just that one up bar there. But that outside reversal on a weekly gave us a clue, right?
Right.
We made a lower low, closed on the high above the previous week's high. And then look at the bar we got this week. So that to me is something to pay attention to, right? We've got, when you see that outside reversal, this is the kind of price action you get. So I like corn a lot. I think this was a good low. We have some squares. We have the weekly, outside reversal. Now we got to watch this first pullback. Do we get a higher low? That's what we're looking for. We get the higher low, and ideally it sits on top of that full square at 499. You're in great shape. And we can start building like the pattern like we were seeing in wheat, which is a little further along, and the next one that we're going to see. Do you got anything to add here on corn?
Well, just that 660 I talked about for wheat, which was below wheat, and that my 660 level for corn would be around
50
five
probably.
yeah 550 560. So we really want to get above that.
Right there.
Yeah. So
we want to get that higher high once this correction's
once
done.
we settle about that, then wheat, corn, everything's on the same track. So right now wheat's lagging a little bit.
Yeah, corn is the laggard, no question. Let's go to beans, which has been leading. So beans, we triangulated the low here on beans. We moved out, made a higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high. This here was not a gap down. That was a contract change, just so you know. So again, we stopped at a place that makes sense, which is the half square and all this price action that has occurred in here. So the first attack, the last couple weeks, we tried and couldn't make it and we pulled back. So now we want to see what happens with this pullback. This is your reference of your most recent low. Here is the ultimate low, but this is the thing we want to see. Can we make a higher low than this low here? And do we hold the full square? So we'll have to see. I also have a weekly here I wanted to show you. This is in the other direction. We just missed an outside reversal bar down because this bar, the previous bar was inside, and then here we missed it by a quarter.
Right.
But this is something to pay attention to, right? We hit the half square and reversed hard. So we got to watch and see where this correction leads us in beans. And you want to watch your dailies and see where does this higher low come in. So you watch the weeklies. You can't just be blindly bullish. You have to say, what's the bar telling you? Well, we almost had that outside reversal bar on the weekly here. So that's just pay attention. This has been leading on the way up. Is it going to usher in a correction here? We'll have to see what price action looks like next week. Anything to add here on beans?
Well, 1410 is my number. As long as we hold above that, we're okay.
Which is right there, just
right
above
there.
the full square.
I just couldn't believe it stopped there. So, and what that is, I can tell you, and you guys can check it. If you take the February high in beans, that would be the 50% of a 72-degree square. That's
right
exactly,
here.
Yeah, it's right there, 1410, 1411, right there.
Nice. So there you have it.
Yep.
All right, let's go check out the softs. Start with sugar. We talked about this low being very bullish in sugar. Given the weekly, which I'll show you why we identified that low. I'll show you on the weekly, but it's been nothing but bullish, right? Push straight up, corrected in here on top of the half square. I mean, look how harmonic this thing is. Held the half square, pushed up again, had a 1-2 day pullback, pushed up again. And remember, we were talking about the markets closing right on the number.
Yep.
Dead on the number.
There you have
square.
it.
Right on the square. So we'll see next week. Can we get above? I mean, it's a simple question that we always get and a decision point on the square. Do we get above it, sit on top, which would be bullish for more higher prices? Do we get stuck under where there's going to be some sort of correction? But that's, I love this chart. I thought the pullback was, scary for everybody that was looking at this going, sugar's going down. And then boom, it hits a harmonic point and rolls. Let's show you the weekly. That's why. Full square. And remember, this trend line was drawn in November, December of last year.
Yeah.
When we reversed here, this trend line was drawn in. So say it was January, right to the trend line, on the full square, reversed, and look where the close is, above the half square. Last week, we closed right on the half square. So it was decision point, and right now we pushed right through it. So we're going to be watching the weekly here to see, can we stay on top of this half square, sort of build a platform here to then go attack, the previous highs in March, April. But the weekly chart looks really constructive. This was a scary pullback, but when you look at it in the context of trend lines and the squares, it's pretty normal. Basically, a upper limit square to the lower limit square correction. Anything to add on the weekly or the daily you want to look at?
Well, sugar is not exactly putting in a bottom. We rallied up. This year's been really a lot of movement for sugar. So this to me looks like we had a correction coming off those highs in May, and let's see how we go. But we definitely have to hold above. So
which would be in here.
Yeah, if we can hold above that area, I think, and especially if we can hold above your square, we're in pretty good shape.
Yeah, I want to see this early in the week, how it deals with this full square. Do we get stuck under here most of the week, or can we push through? Because if we push through, I think we're going to take out these highs.
Yeah. And because we're coming off of some big highs, it's possible that we consolidate in here for a bit before we get going. That's possible.
Sure.
So
yep, we'll see. We'll let price action tell us.
Sugar did his job for a while, so they probably would take a little break.
Here's another one that, again, I call it sneaky bullish, like crude, and that's cotton. Been going sideways forever, right?
Right.
Since November of last year. It feels like forever. But again, we identified this low, right? That was a good low with squares. Now we're starting to get we've been watching these higher lows. And then look at the angles that we're starting to get now, Barrie.
Yep.
And it's curling up, and we closed not on the week's high, but we closed. That's one of the highest weekly closes we've seen in a while. So it could be that we don't break out and we turn back and we maybe get another higher low, but it's coming. This breakout is coming, and it's coming soon. So I think you gotta keep your eye on cotton. It's frustrating if you have options, but this is not the time to be owning options. If you own the commodity, the odds continue to stack up in the favor of this thing making a big breakout, and there is a big base that we've got to go off of once the breakout happens. I mean, it's a sideways market, but is there anything else you want to add here?
Well, it's sideways, but I have 45 degrees up from the low is right around 82. Let's say 81, let's say 81 and a half. So long as we're above 81 and a half, I think the tilt is to the upside, especially now after that last low came in.
Yeah.
So it's bullish for now, up until it takes out, what did I say, 81 and a half, right?
Yeah.
So long as we're above that, pullbacks, counter trends hold above that, I think push will be to the upside.
To me, it just looks like it's building, and there's an urgency to buy it. If you look at these reference points here, they weren't willing to buy it here on the way down. They bought it here, and then they bought it here, and now they bought it here, and now here, and now here.
Yeah.
So let's see. We'll see soon enough on that one. And then the last one on the softs I want to talk about is coffee. Now, why am I going to talk about coffee? Because I can't even draw a decent trend line yet. I mean, I guess I could from here to there, but and this just looks like fourth wave action, right? Looks pretty boring, pretty dull. There's some divergences here, but look at the weekly, and you're going to have to remember what we saw before. This right here is an outside reversal.
Right.
Remember the chart we showed with the outside reversal on corn? What happens? The follow through. I'm not saying it's exactly going to happen the same way in coffee, but this is
we ought to notice it though.
This is the first thing we got to notice.
Yeah.
We've got an outside reversal on a weekly and a daily that's really struggling to go down, right? Since maybe for about the last month. Right. So does that mean we're going to get some decent upside action in coffee next week? Maybe. It's on my radar for sure. And it's because of that weekly outside reversal. Right. I know this isn't your cup of tea because this is really, really sort of bottom and corner fishing, but anything to add here?
Yeah, I think there's a reason why that low came in with that pattern where, if you're looking at square 9, we're 360 degrees down from that high in April. So that's a solid pullback. And if we hold here, we ought to at least, run up halfway through. So I think next test using that same methodology will be around 180, which is how funny, right? It'll be 180 up.
Yep,
180
right
up
there.
from that low would be 180. So there
Wow.
you go.
Right there, right in
Yep.
there.
Yep.
Which would be a
So,
nice move from 160.
of course. So keep that in mind.
Yep, that's coffee. All right, there's one metal I want to cover, and that's silver. So silver, unlike gold, actually looks a lot more bullish, right? Because remember when Barrie was reviewing gold, it was stuck under that full square and just kind of trapped between the full square and 1940, I think it was, right? Your 1940 level. Look at what silver's been doing since September, right? We had to push up, pull back, higher low than the low here, push up, higher high, another pullback, higher low. Now here we've made a lower high. Like a lot of the markets we look at, what's it doing? Forming a triangle.
Yep.
But to me, this is a bullish triangle. It's not a triangle that looks like it's going to roll over and die because of this. Again, if we look left and say, how did we get here? We got here with a series of higher lows. And so I'm watching this. What I want to watch is how does the price action go on this pullback here? Do we hold the half square? Do we come down and hold this trend line? Do we hold the full square and make another higher low? That's the key to me. If we can see another higher low in reverse, we're setting up, for a pretty decent upside breakout in silver. The other thing I want you to look at where we close the week on a weekly.
Boy.
Right on full square support. I told you there's a bunch of markets.
There's
right
a lot
on
of it's just amazing
square.
how that happens every
It's
week.
absolutely amazing. So this is a big spot. Next week, I want to see, do we, chances are we're going to dip down, but do we dip down and still end the week above that full square next week? Do we get stuck under it? Big close next week on silver for a weekly basis. But we'll see. I think the metals aren't exactly ripping. The copper's sort of triangulating. Gold is, struggling a little bit. But this, again, might be another one of those sneaky bullish ones. Anything to add here on silver?
Well, I think, let's see, what do I have here? As long as we're above 24, I think it's in a good footing to move higher. So that's not too far.
No, it's not too far.
That's all I got there. 24.
Yeah, it's
right in there.
Right there. Let's see what happens.
Yep.
I'm
moving
watching
quietly,
the weekly.
though. It's moving quietly.
And I'm watching the weekly here. The weekly's going to give me a big clue. All right, let's run over to the energies. We'll take a quick look at crude. Barrie covered crude. I don't need to add anything else on the daily. It was mainly the weekly I wanted to show. We obviously are, pushing up against this trend line, which we could easily break next week. The bigger thing I wanted to show you was the weekly, just to add what Barrie talked about. Remember our little circles here?
Yep.
Look at the close again, right on the half square. So next week's bar, we're going to be outside the circle. So the only thing, if there's not weakness next week where we continue to touch the circle, it's escaped the circle, and now it's the half square that we're really going to have to deal with.
Right.
So 76 3/4 is the key number. Let's see if we can get, push above that. That will get us completely away from the circle, and we'll be above that half square. So to me, the odds favor that we're going to get something of that nature from crude very soon, and probably next week. Since you covered crude, we don't have to go into that. Let's go to the last one, which is our old faithful nat gas. It's plodding along. Now, what's the big deal? Why do we want to look at this? We triangulated the lows, right? And we've been seeing this series of higher highs and higher lows. We're getting a little steeper. So there's, a little more momentum coming in because the buying's picking up at a higher level. So we're starting to get those trend lines that get a little steeper. Now this downtrend line is not so far away as it was. Remember, it was a full square away here, more than a full square away here back in June. Now we're about a half square away. We break that, all the momentum shifts to the upside. The other thing I wanted to show you on this one, the daily's not showing us much different, but take a look at the weekly. We got another close above the half square. And we've been struggling with this half square all year.
Yeah,
basically since, January, February, we've been dancing with this half square, and we're still dancing with it, right? Because the bar was above, the bar was below, but we've got to close above the half square. I'd like to see if this coming week, can we set a full bar on top of that? If we can, then that maybe means the chop's over and things may start going. So watch your weeklies on nat gas for that kind of clue. Anything else you want to add on nat gas? I know you.
Yeah, I think
your number.
It's a good time to watch it closely because things can start to happen.
And I know people
and
think of
nat
this,
gas, when it starts going, it just goes. So it's a good time to watch it.
and people think of this as a winter type thing.
Well, it used to be, maybe there was a time for that, but now we know there's a lot of dynamics out there. So
look at last year. Look at where this run started.
Yeah.
July
Other
5th.
than last year. Yeah.
July 5th.
Yeah.
To August 23rd, it made that monster move. Not saying it's going to repeat, just saying the pattern is there.
And look what happened exactly in December of 2021.
Right?
It's middle of winter, right? A whole bunch of nothing. So
right there, nothing, and then we go. So it's a beast, but it is harmonic. It does respect the harmonic. So if you trade off them, you definitely have an edge over the market. Anything else, Barrie, that you're specifically focusing on this week? Where's your attention?
Really, I think the S&P is, again, the focus because of the cycles and all of that. And the other one would be crude and a couple of the commodities. Yeah. So, yeah. And including natural gas.
Yeah, I think you got to focus on natural gas and crude. Watch cotton.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
Watch sugar, because sugar is going to give us, a lot of clues as to whether we're going to, have to consolidate or correct more, or it's going to, make a run for the highs. The grains are pulling back. So let's watch the nature of those pullbacks. There is a lot going on. And again, I don't know if it's because of all the cycles that we identified and these inflection points that are coming in, but you can see it in the price action. You see where we're sitting in a lot of different markets. We're sitting right on a square or right on a half square, which means it's got to make a decision. It's big week coming up. I'm excited because things are moving and things are getting ready to move. And that's always when this is the most fun. So everybody have a great week. We'll see you next week. And Barrie, good job. And we'll see you next week.
Thanks, Ben. Good coverage. Have a good week, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.